Hi there, so do you have a special someone in your life who's an indoor rower or an exercise enthusiast who you want to buy a gift for but you're not entirely sure what to get? Well, let me take you through a whole range of different options that even if you don't buy the things I'm talking about, it might just kind of stir your interest into something that might be better suited. Now, I'm going to try and get through these in breakneck speed, but do check out the chapters where you can kind of look at what I'm talking about in case you start to lose interest in what I'm saying. So, before you start losing interest in what I'm saying, let's get started. So first up, of course, if it's an indoor rower that you're buying a gift for and they don't have a rowing machine, why not look at a rowing machine? Now, these do vary in price from very cheap and nasty to very expensive and sometimes also nasty. But here are the ones that I use. This is a Concept 2 rowing machine, and it's the industry standard machine you're going to see in gyms all around the world for a very good reason. And that's that this thing is just built to last. It'll sit there in a gym and take abuse day after day after day and not let anyone down. Now, if the person that you're buying a machine for is interested in competing, this is probably the machine to get because competitions like the World Indoor Rowing Championships, CrossFit, High Rocks, and most online competitions are going to use a Concept 2. So if that is a world that they want to enter, this is the machine to buy. Water rowers are really popular for a very good reason. For a start, they're very quiet, and secondly, they look amazing in your living room if that's where you're going to keep it. Now, if you are going to buy one, my suggestion is to make sure there's some kind of Bluetooth connection on your machine in order to be able to use some of the apps that are out there. So that means the Water Rower S4 module, or even better than that, the Smart Row upgrade. This is an Aviron rowing machine. Now, this monitor connects to the internet and you're then able to play games. You can race other people around the world and take part in training programs. And I think this is what sets this machine by far above the other connected options out there. And it's made even better by the fact that I'm one of the people that makes training videos for it. So if you get this and you want to do a training row along, you'll see my wee face on this monitor. If the person that you're buying a machine for is actually looking to improve their on-the-water rowing, you might want to look at the RP3 rowing machines. Now, this is a Model T and it's a dynamic rowing machine, and what that means is that instead of me moving backwards and forwards, the machine moves, and this is a really good kind of way to make it feel like you're rowing in a boat. This is quite expensive, it must be said, but it's perfectly honed to improve those skills within the boat. Now, I know some people out there are going to be saying that Concept 2 also have a dynamic and you can put them on slides, but I want to share the love here and also say that RP3 is perfectly situated within that space to help your on-the-water rowing. Now, of course, there's a whole world of cheaper machines out there, and you might be thinking that any rowing machine is better than no rowing machine, which it kind of is, but it's not really, because you're going to be throwing your money away. These cheap machines are usually not built fit for purpose. You can't get your body into the right positions in order to give yourself the proper workout. Look at this machine. I can't get in to the front with my shins in a vertical position, which means that I'm no longer able to use my legs properly. And because when I put my arms out in front of me, they go past the handle, this means that I'm also not getting the right upper body motion from this either. So this machine is frankly useless. It's a lucky thing that I got it for £10 just to make this video. Remember though, the second-hand market for Concept 2 and Water Rower is actually quite strong. So if nothing else, if you buy it second-hand, you're probably going to get most of your money back if you have to sell it within like a year or so if they find out that rowing isn't actually for them. You can get in touch and ask me questions, but I need to move on to the next one. Now, if your indoor rower doesn't have a tablet to run an app on the rowing machine, and of course the rowing machine will work with an app, then why not look at one of these? So this is the Amazon Fire. This is a little tiny one, but of course do get the bigger 10-inch ones. And of course there's things like an iPad that you can get as well. Great gift ideas. Who doesn't want an iPad or an Amazon Fire or something? It's got so many uses, including obviously those rowing apps. So maybe you've got them a tablet, maybe they already have a tablet, but it's resting on the floor or something and they can't quite see it, in which case you need a mount for the phone or tablet. Now, this silicone version available on Amazon and various places is for a phone. It just sits on top of the PM5 monitor. Phone clips in there, wow, they're all happy. This by Lucien Deppold on Etsy is the Erg Tab. Your iPad sits inside here here, and then that bounces on top of the monitor. It's a really good solution. Concept 2 also have their own thing that can hold a tablet on the arm as well. All of these links are within the description, so you can find them there. I really like the Erg tab because I like having my iPad above the monitor rather than below, but that's just my preference. Next up then, here's a gift idea for people that want to add little bits of training into their day, but they don't want to have to go all the way to the gym. And for that, I think that the PowerBall and these ropeless skipping ropes are a great idea, okay? So these, you basically just spin round and round and round and round and round as though it's a skipping rope, and you could just stand in your driveway or whatever, skipping. You might look like a lunatic, but you're going to get fit, and because of just the inertia of it, they work really well. And then the PowerBall, if I can get this spinning while I'm talking to you, by getting the ball going and then just sitting like this. Eventually, as the inertia of the ball inside this gets faster and faster, it says he's trying to get it faster and faster, it starts to really get into your forearms and it gets a really good workout. So if you're doing something, again, like high rocks, where you need quite a lot of forearm strength in terms of carrying the kettlebells and the farmers carry, then just sitting watching TV with a PowerBall is fantastic. So these are really good, if I'm just gonna stop this, there we go. They're really good gift ideas, not that expensive. So if you want to just have something to augment and add, supplement, whatever to the rest of the training, good idea. Now this might seem a little bit on the expensive side, but virtual reality is actually a fantastic way to train, okay? There is a rowing app called HoloFit, which you put the headset on and then you just enter this virtual world and row. And actually, it's not that weird. When I first got there, I got this purely so I could try out HoloFit. And I thought, this is gonna be awful having a headset on, that mass on the top of my head, rowing backwards and forwards. It's gonna be really uncomfortable. But actually, it's really not that bad, okay? The worst part that happens is, again, sweat, okay? Yeah, sweaty face now. Sorry if my hair looks ridiculous. The more you work out, the hotter your face gets and it gets a little bit sweaty. But if you do buy a VR headset and it is for the purposes of training, then what I'd recommend is that you get a silicone foam insert rather than the standard one. That's what I did. And that way it means that you don't kind of end up with a really kind of spongy metal awfulness. But there's other apps out there that you can use for this to really help your training. There's various boxing ones like Thule the Fight, which trust me, I'm banging around in my kitchen doing that and I'm just dripping at the end of it, the amount of exercise that you have put into it. And then there's games like Audio Trip or Beat Saber, which is basically standing in your living room waving your hands around in the air, jumping up and down, and it's just great exercise. So another way to kind of add to that world of exercise is a virtual reality headset. If you're a person that does lots of cardio training but they don't do any kind of heart rate based training, then why not start them on their journey by buying them a heart rate monitor, okay? Again, there's lots of different versions you can go for, okay? So you get the Cuspo, this is a upper arm based version, this is a chest strap version, but they're both relatively cheap, okay? So this is kind of like a bottom of the range, but they do the job perfectly well. There's nothing wrong with them. Just because they're cheap doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just that they're not one of the big brands, okay? So you then move up to like Polar or Garmin, which are a bit more expensive, but do exactly the same as the Cuspo. Yes, you start to get an app that can also connect to it if you go for Garmin or Polar, but in terms of the reading of your heart rate, this is exactly the same as the Cuspo. So unless you have a reason to buy one of these, then you could go for budget. But then you get into the real top end stuff like the Morpheus or MyZone. So this is the MyZone MZ3, and this is the MyZone Switch, which I've lost the, oh, here he is, hang on. And this is the MyZone Switch. Now, these are expensive. So like if you don't find a discount code or whatever, then they're around about £130 each. But a lot more comes with it. You get this app, you can get a community in which you then start doing challenges with for. And sometimes really what it comes down to is if you can buy something that's going to give people a reason to carry on training and they want to keep on doing it, then it's actually worth the money. Okay, so I really find that chasing my MEPs, the MyZone points with these, makes me kind of on a day when I'm thinking, you know what, I really can't be bothered training today. I'll think, you know what, I want to earn a few MEPs, so I'll just jump on the rower or the bike or whatever and just burn a few off, all because I've got this, okay? So that's a reason to spend a little bit more money on it. But frankly, they are kind of all the same. It's just really the function that you want. So just choose your price bracket and then go for that kind of Cuspo bottom end, the Garmin Polar kind of popular range, or the really expensive MyZones. Maybe they don't have a watch yet, so you can start to look into wrist-based things. Now, I've got a Garmin Epix Gen 2 that I'm wearing on my wrist right now, and that's actually actually replaced my Apple Watch. The more training I did, the more I realized that the battery in an Apple Watch is just pointless, okay? So the Garmin Epix Gen 2 goes for days, this goes for hours, so that's why I chose. However, there is a reason I bought this in the first place. I did like my Apple Watch, I just now prefer the Garmin. If it does work from a heart rate based training point of view, do be a little bit cautious if you're an indoor rower, that some people it doesn't really work as well as other people. For me, it works perfectly, but I know lots of people it doesn't work for. But hopefully you already know what they're going to be using it for, and therefore you can make that smart decision. Now, rowing, and most exercise for that matter, is a very sweaty undertaking, so you might want to get something to catch that sweat. So something like a wristband or a headband is an ideal solution. Now, these Halo headbands are my preferred ones. In fact, I actually sell these on my website. You don't have to buy mine, but the Halo ones are great. They've got a little yellow thing to catch the sweat, so it kind of helps it run into your eyes. And sweatbands are a dime a dozen, okay? Again, these are roll-on branded, but you don't, who cares about them? Maybe the person that you're buying a gift for is a bit of a narcissist and likes to film themselves when they're exercising, in which case their phone might not be enough, and they might like a kind of a 360 camera. Now, GoPro make a 360 camera that's fantastic, very popular, and then there's this, the Insta360. Basically, it's a lens on either side and it'll film them forwards and backwards. I find this is quite useful actually when I'm rowing. I can have it like above me and whatever, and I can catch myself from many angles. Not the cheap side, it must be said, but if you've got other reasons to have something like this, then something like the Insta360 is a good option. Now, there's been lots of articles saying how important music is to training in terms of either kind of distracting you or motivating you to give them that little push when Eminem starts, okay? So you might want to buy them some kind of earphones. Now, I've rode a couple of times with big over-the-head headphones on, and I don't really like it because my ears get too sweaty, okay? These Sony X1004s, I think is the model, are fantastic. They're great for when you're walking down the streets and things. The noise cancelling is incredible, whatever, but I don't know if I'd want to exercise with them on. Now, I've had these Jabra Elite 65Ts for years, but there are new models of these Jabra in-ear buds, and I think they are, out of all the ones I've ever tried, the best. They stay in my ears. If I'm sweating, it doesn't get all kind of filled up in my ear canals, which is really icky. And because they're true wireless, they don't have the wire in between. It means that you don't have anything for the sweat to run into and short them like I've had in previous headphones and earbuds. So although you don't have to get the Jabra ones, might be some other kind of earbuds that you want to look into. Maybe Apple EarPods or something. Who knows? It's a gift idea. That's all we care about. Now, most of the training that we do is the outside of our body, okay? We'll try to build up our muscles and all that kind of stuff. However, you can train your lungs as well. So for years, I've been using this, the Power Breathe, okay? It's a very analog system. There's no app that attaches to it. You just stick it in your mouth. You tighten up the bottom of it. It makes it harder to breathe, and that makes your lungs a little bit stronger. However, there is a better, it must be said, but slightly more expensive option, which is the AeroFit, okay? And now this will train your breathing in and your breathing out, which is kind of something that fundamentally this one misses. And you also get an app with it as well. So it will guide you through your training. It will tell you when to breathe in, when to breathe out. The little dials on the side then make it harder to breathe in or breathe out. So now this AeroFit, although expensive, I do really think is part of the reason I was able to go a lot faster in my High Rocks race that I just completed compared to the one I did 5 weeks before. I'd been using this in the meantime, and although you could say it's a placebo effect over 5 weeks, it taught me to be a lot more in control of my breathing by the time I got into that race. So when I was kind of like exhausted, I was like able to go, oh, that's okay, I'm fine, I've breathed, I've trained, I know it's just like. Now, massage guns are one of these super fashionable things that you see lots of people sitting at the sidelines where they go in onto their muscles. And to be honest, it does help as a kind of a pre-massage to get the blood flowing, and then also if you've kind of got a little bit of an injury, then they can really help. In fact, I had a really bad injury over the summer, and using the Bob and Brad massage gun, it kind of really helped. It kind of eased me past the initial pain, then I was able to look after my own therapy from that point afterwards, carrying on using the massage gun. Now, there are very, very, very many, like rowing machines, many different things that you can buy out there, okay? Really expensive ones, really cheap ones. But most of the time what it comes down to is either the battery length, like how long it will run for, and the balancing, how it feels. So this is the first one I ever got, the Watney, and to be honest, it's a big behemoth of the thing, okay? The battery's okay, but it's kind of really top heavy and balanced. It's not that most comfortable to use, and if you're trying to get it around your back, it's a little bit uncomfortable. So I stopped using it, and then I got the Bob and Brad one, which is much smaller, much nicer to hold. The balance is better for kind of getting in. You can kind of get round and things, and I really like that. And then I saw that they did a travel version. How cute is this? And To be honest, I kind of almost prefer using the little travel version because you can really, if I want to get into my hamstrings and things, it's much easier to maneuver my hand around to use this little fella. Let's turn him on while I'm talking to you so you can see. And just in case you don't know what a massage gun does, it does that, and then you just massage the area. And it's really nice. And so this travel version comes with, let's turn them off again, there we go. Comes with various heads for various ways to torture yourself with it. But I say torture, it does help, trust me. I really like the Bob and Brad range anyway, so this is why I'm talking about them. There's the big super duper one, the Theragun, which I used over the summer. I had a quick go on one, and to be honest, I didn't see what the reason was for it to be so expensive compared to the Bob and Brad or even little Watney here. Okay, so unless you know there's a real reason to buy and spend stupid money on one of them, then I'd look at one of the kind of the quality ones instead. Clothing, well, t-shirts, shorts, socks, shoes, whatever. Buy them something. Okay, so what I'd say is if you're gonna go for t-shirts, go for that kind of wicking material. This is what these are. They're the smart, cool t-shirts that I again sell in my shop, but don't worry about that. And then shorts, you want to make sure they're nice and lightweight. Do take a look if you can at where the seams are, especially when it comes to rowing. You don't want to have big seams that kind of go and that you're going to kind of constantly be running over, because that's just going to be a shortcut to blisters. Okay, now when it comes to shoes, the thing about wearing just normal gym trainers or running trainers or something is that the soles of those feet are quite spongy, and on a rowing machine, when you push in that power, that kind of slightly sponge thing can rob you of like half a watt or so, which if you're looking for like a 1/10 of a second increase can mean quite a lot. So what I recommend is that you go for flat soled shoes if you're really trying to get into that kind of pinnacle when it comes to the best kind of shoes to use. So things like the Adidas Powerlifts, they work really well, but lots of people do like rowing in Converse All-Stars because they are flat, low-rise shoes and they're not too spongy on the sole, and they also look, frankly, very cool. Water bottles. Hydration is super important, so it's really important that they always have some kind of water near them. I mean, listen, this thing cost me like $1.99, a Eurahike basic bottle. I buy a whole bunch of these, I use them for like 2 months, and then I bin them so I don't have to worry about any kind of like chemicals that are going around, right? So that's kind of what I do. You don't have to spend lots of money on a water bottle. This one did cost a lot of money, but that's because the top is actually an ultraviolet light. So when it goes into the bottle, it purifies the water. So not a cheap water bottle, probably not one that you want to be taking into the gym with you, but if you're looking for gift ideas, then why not get somebody a water bottle that is UV. But it's not all just things you can hold in your hand. There's also things like app subscriptions. Okay, so you get training apps like Sensei, you get the Concept 2 Aviron app for people that don't want to spend all that money on the Aviron rowing machine. You can then have a subscription to their app that works alongside the Concept 2 with the PM5. Or there's the software like Exa, which will allow you to row on a virtual river, which is fantastic, and row alongside other people. So you could look into an app subscription. It's maybe not that tangible because you're like, I've signed you up for something, but it's a nice gift. It's a good way to try and help them along their rowing journey. What about an entry to a race? So with all the High Rocks races that are going on, you could enter them into that, or there's the indoor rowing championships you could enter them into, or there's various online indoor rowing competitions that happen too. Obviously you have to kind of be in that world to know the ones that are happening and when they're happening, but it's a good idea. Or a half marathon or a 10K or something like that. You can kind of buy them an entry ticket, and that might just be enough to spur them into doing a bit more training. Now, not everybody cares about weight, okay? And it's not like the be all and end all of things. Usually I prefer to kind of look in the mirror and go, oh look, I look a little bit better than I did last month. But there are times where you really do need to know your weight, like if you're trying to be a lightweight rower and you have to stay under 75 kilograms, in which case you have to make sure that the scales that you're using are perfectly accurate. And that's why I love using my Omron scales. I really trust them. I can weigh myself in the morning on them, and then I can go straight to a race and it's identical. And trust me, I've been on some of the other scales, like the Scala ones and whatever, and I've weighed myself at 74, and then I've got on to a race and I've suddenly been like 75.1 and panicking on the rowing machine trying to burn off that 0.1 of a kilogram before my race. So scales they can trust could be an option, but it might also be like buying somebody a food processor. Gloves. This is one that I'm a bit meh about, because I don't wear gloves because I usually think that if you're getting blisters when you're rowing, it's because you're grabbing onto the handle too tight, or you're just not letting air get through there. However, I know some people do like gloves, in which case that's why there's a picture of gloves that's just popped up, and why there's a link in the description to the pair that you're kind of looking at. But of course, you pick the ones you think might be better for the person that you know. Now, when it comes to seat pads, Usually, if you need a seat pad, it's because your technique is rubbish, okay? And you've got bad posture and you're rolling over your sit bones, and that's what's causing the problem. So rather than buying a seat pad, I'd probably buy an hour coaching session with someone in order to sort out their position. However, I know some people do like having a seat pad, in which case just search Amazon for rowing seat pads. I don't know any of the good ones, so I'm not going to recommend any of them, but if you do have a person in your life that complains about a sore bum after the rowing, maybe that's something you want to buy them. Now, it's not the most sexiest thing in the world, but if you have just bought them a rowing machine, you might want to buy some kind of vinyl mat to put underneath it. Sometimes you can get them thick enough that if you live in a flat, it might help acoustically with the sound traveling into the floor below, but if nothing else, it's going to catch all that kind of icky sweat that's going to come dripping off them as they go on their journey on the rowing machine in the living room. Of course, you might also want to buy yourself some kind of wireless headphones so that you can carry on watching television while they're rowing behind you. And so that's it. That's kind of the broad suggestion of things that I could kind of say would make good gifts. Now, pretty much everything I've spoken about in this video, I do link to in the description, and the ones that do say that they're an Amazon link, just know it is an affiliate link, so I do get some kind of kickback off it. I don't know how much. Nobody ever uses them. This is the first time I've ever done it. So if you want, just go to Amazon and type the stuff in yourself. It really doesn't matter. I'm not here to try and take your money. I'm here to try and give you some gift ideas, of course. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this one. Remember, you could also just tell them about my channel. All the workouts and tips and stuff up here are entirely free for them to do. So if it's someone who's looking for a way to try and be motivated and continue with the rowing, but they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, just get them to take a look around the plans and workouts on this channel that are all entirely free. What's better than that? A free gift that you can give to someone and say, listen, here's a website URL that you can go to on YouTube, and I will gift you the joy of some guy talking to you for hours on end on the rowing machine. What could be better than that? Goodbye.